Pakistan is also a factor there, Alexi Zakharov, because you look at South Asia and you see the relationship in a way that America is building slowly with Pakistan and its military leadership. We've also seen the Pakistan leadership go to Moscow. Does Moscow see India very differently to an Islamabad Rawalpindi? That India is, as we've been saying, all-weather friend. We've gone through good times and bad. Pakistan more transactional. Am I right in saying that?
Well, I think we can't even compare Russia's relationship with India and Pakistan because the level of cooperation with Pakistan is definitely not at the same level. We have never seen any visit by Russian leader, neither in Soviet times nor in the modern Russia. And it's also reflective of the level of the relationship, to my mind. If we take economic aspect, then the bilateral trade is just around $1 billion. Yes, there was a relative rise over the past several years. Russia is exploring different areas of economic cooperation with Pakistan. Of course, there are regular talks both at political level. There are now regular parliamentary exchanges. There is a regular exchange at the level of Intergovernmental Commission. There is some track of cooperation in energy. But when you look at the cooperation between Russia and Pakistan, then it's always very good on surface. They discuss many things, but I haven't seen many outcomes. I think that the situation within Pakistan itself, their problematic economic situation is a major hinder for that. And I think that if we compare at the level of trust, it's also not at the same level.
So you're saying India is at a completely different level. Point taken. Sure.
I mean,
but
in
Brahma
South Asia,
Chellaney, you mentioned earlier the C factor, China. I come back to it, Brahma, because China remains in many ways India's greatest challenge. In many ways, how to deal with China. Now, Russia and China have a very strong relationship. Does India raise the issue despite the fact that we are part of regional groupings like BRICS, like the SCO? Should India be taking a firmer stand to ensure, A, that Russia recognizes India's concerns vis-a-vis China?
Well, first, look at the symbolism of Putin's visit to India. The symbolism of his visit matters even more than the deliverables. This is Putin's first trip to India since the Ukraine war began, and by showing up in New Delhi, he's advertising that Russia has options beyond China. The US, as you know, by isolating Russia from Western markets, has effectively turned China into Russia's critical economic lifeline. But Putin's visit to India shows that Russia values its partnership with India and will not allow itself to become a junior partner to Beijing. And India, by hosting Putin, is making clear that it rejects the Western-imposed binary of with us or against us. India's message is that it will chart its own independent path, including treating Russia as a reliable long-term partner, especially when Washington has been treating India with a casual disregard that borders on strategic negligence. And we should not forget one thing that that Rory Suchet underlined, which is that the China factor has been central to India's partnership with Moscow, and it goes back to the 1971 war. But for that friendship treaty that India signed with the Soviet Union, Nixon administration, President Nixon, had been egging on China to intervene, to open another front against India. It was that friendship treaty with Moscow that prevented China from opening a military front against India when there was genocide going on in East Pakistan, which later became Bangladesh, through a short Indian military intervention. So the China factor has been central to India's partnership with Moscow right since the early 1970s. And even today, if you look at the geography, Russia is to the north of China, and India is to the south of China. And Russia-India partnership is critical to imposing discrete checks on Chinese power. The only missing link in this bigger picture is that America,
Right.
instead of recognizing Russia's importance vis-a-vis China, has pushed Russia closer to China through unprecedented sanctions against Moscow.
And some of those sanctions, of course, are hurting India as well, Rory, because here you've got India, which was doing oil deals with Russia, and Putin imposes 25% additional penalties. He doesn't do it with other parts of Europe, which have also done deals with Russia. So the hypocrisy, the double standards comes out. Should a stronger message therefore be sent by Russia and India at the meeting that will take place also to Washington? That you cannot have this global hypocrisy anymore in this multipolar world order.
It is fascinating. I think you raise a very, very good point. Let's keep in mind that a fair amount of the oil that goes from Russia to India is being sold off to America's European allies. And so when Trump is trying to tariff/sanction India for buying this Russian oil, he's actually de facto sanctioning his friends forever across the European Union. Now, let's keep this in mind. When the conflict in Ukraine kicked off, the European Union quickly said, we're not going to buy any more Russian energy. We're not going to put so-called money into Putin's so-called war coffers. Well, what happened? Exactly what Vladimir Putin said would happen. The sanctions boomerang. Right now, the European economy is in stagnation. It is barely reaching 1% growth. The forecast is atrocious. Meantime, the economies of the BRICS countries and Russia in particular doing very well. Russia is looking at 3% growth. Russia is now the most sanctioned country in the world, and yet its economy is the fourth largest in the world in terms of PPP, purchasing power parity. This is something that Vladimir Putin warned the West about. You sanctioned me, those sanctions will boomerang. Meantime, as Europe tries to fund the Kiev regime with money it simply doesn't have, what does the future hold for Europe? It looks disastrous as the multipolar world now is taking the lead. We are witnessing the economic financial infrastructure of the world heading east. The Euro-Atlantic Alliance is trying to keep its grip, but its grip is watching the world slide through its hands like grains and granules of sand. There is a new world order in town. And this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump is tariffing and sanctioning all these countries around the world to stall their growth and try to put them in their place. It's too little, too late. Hello, new polycentric world order.
Can I therefore ask you in conclusion, Rory, there will be those, of course, who will say there is a moral position that India must take in support of Ukraine. I've heard it from a number of European nation ambassadors, but from others as well. There is a moral position that the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine was invaded by Russia. What will you tell those who will say that Vladimir Putin will also have to answer to certain stands that he's taken vis-a-vis Ukraine in terms of Russian expansionism? A quick final comment.
Who financed the Maidan coup of 2014?
Rory, go ahead.
Who ousted the democratically elected leader of Ukraine? The United States, the State Department admitted we spent $5 billion ousting the democratically elected leadership of Ukraine in 2014. Let me assure you, the conflict did not start a few years ago. The conflict started in 2014. When you want to achieve regime change in a country, what do? You sanction it and you try, as Washington said, to bring it to its knees. That has failed. The only thing that has worked with the sanctions is it's brought Europe economically to its knees. It's a classic play out of Langley, Virginia, when they want to achieve regime change. Either you do it physically, forcibly, militarily, or you sanction a country to such a level that the populace becomes so dissatisfied that the public achieves the regime change for Washington. They wanted that to happen in Moscow. Guess what? All these sanctions, all this Russophobia, all this anti-Russia rhetoric has only galvanized the Russian public around the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The support for the Kremlin in Russia to date has never been stronger.
Rory Suchet, I must confess, I look forward to listening to you on RT. You make some wonderful observations from, of course, a Russian perspective, but it's good to have you on the show and my other guests. Good to have you all. We'll have plenty more of you. The visit starts tomorrow. Remember, of course, India Today is getting that world exclusive interview with Vladimir Putin. We will have it on air same time tomorrow and excerpts right through the day tomorrow along with special guests.